Welcome to this new automotive news video for Tuesday, July 14th, 2026. On the agenda today, we're going to talk about the new incredible idea that Volkswagen has come up with to save its European production lines, about Renault dropping its last true family model, and Alfa Romeo discontinuing the two models meant to save the brand, and about Stellantis, which is finally bouncing back thanks to the commercial success of its big V8 engines. I hope you'll enjoy today's topics. If you do, Cash is counting on you as usual to show it by leaving a like, subscribing for upcoming videos, boosting this one if the option appears for you, and leaving a comment where you share your thoughts on today's news. And just before we get into the news that's on the agenda for this video, a quick note. This video, as well as yesterday's, are a bit different from usual in terms of audio and also in terms of editing, which is really simplified. That's because I'm not at home right now, so I don't have access to my usual equipment, and I've adapted to what I have on hand to still bring you the summary of today's news. Everything returns to normal with tomorrow's video on Wednesday, July 15th, 2026. And indeed, we're going to start with the good news of the day because, against all odds, Stellantis made a great comeback in the first half of 2026. Notably thanks to the second quarter, during which the group sold 1.6 million cars worldwide. That's 10% more than during the same period last year. So sales are going up. That's good news. Now, what's quite interesting is why they're going up. And the answer's quite surprising, or maybe not. It's largely thanks to the American market. Carlos Tavares, when leading Stellantis, believed the group could sell identical cars with the same engines in both the United States and Europe, betting on market convergence. For that, they had abandoned, among other things, the V8 HEMI engine, but the new boss brought it back, and it's been a real success. Since the return of the V8 engine deliveries in the United States have jumped by 38%, that's 120,000 more vehicles in just one quarter. A big rebound that's mainly due to the Ram 1500 in its TRX SRT version, which is equipped with the famous V8 HEMI. On the European market, it's a whole different story, because obviously here it's not the V8 engine that allowed Stellantis to make a comeback, since it simply doesn't exist on our market. It's largely thanks to its Chinese brand Li Automotive, which is now integrated into Stellantis Europe, that deliveries went from 8,000 to 33,000 in Europe in the second quarter of 2026 compared to the second quarter of 2025. There are also affordable small models from French brands doing well, especially the Citroën C3 and C3 Aircross. On the other hand, some models that were once popular, like the Peugeot 2008 and the Peugeot Fiat 600, lost about 28,000 sales over the same period, when combined with the sales of the Jeep Avenger and the Opel Mokka. The good news in all this is that Stellantis finally seems to have understood something essential. Not all customers want the same cars. In the United States, people keep asking for big pickup trucks and large cars with big engines, while in Europe, people simply want the cheapest cars possible. Instead of using one strategy, the group now tailors its offerings to each market. Still, even if there's a slight improvement in results at the start of 2026, there are still some bad news affecting some of the Stellantis group's brands, especially for Alfa Romeo. In the past few hours, some photos from internal Stellantis meetings have surfaced, revealing the roadmap for their European brand up to the year 2030. Everything was fine until the Alfa Romeo image appeared. At first, things seemed reassuring. The Junior will get its facelift before the end of the decade, which is significant. While the small SUV is already starting to show signs of weakness in the European market, the Tonale will also be replaced by a new C-segment SUV, which will not be called Tonale, and will be developed on the STL Medium platform. There will be another car with the codename CHB. That codename would likely be for the new Giulietta, a small compact car about 4.4 meters long, based on the new STLA-1 platform, as well as the project called Bottega Fury Rizzeri, which is a collector's model, a limited edition model, which will probably be in the same vein as the supercar, Alfa Romeo 33 Stradale. So far, things looked promising, but there's a catch. For 2 years, Alfa Romeo has said the future Giulia and Stelvio models are delayed. They are supposed to be developed on the STLA large platform, and at first, when they were conceived, these cars were meant to be fully electric only, except that the market isn't there right now. There's not enough demand for fully electric cars. As a result, Alfa has postponed them by 2 years to come up with hybrid versions based on the STLA large chassis. Up until now, they had just been delayed. But it seems that they've completely disappeared from Alfa Romeo's plans. They simply no longer appear on the brand's roadmap. According to the latest news, there are no longer any plans to release a new Giulia or a new Stelvio. Instead, Alfa has launched a major new project to consider which model could enter the D segment, which is not at all the same part of the automotive market. Here, we're talking more about a high-end segment, or a path that leads directly to Maserati, since Antonio Filosa, the new director of Stellantis, recently confirmed that Maserati was in talks with Alfa Romeo to develop its next generation of models, especially the very high-end vehicles in the D segment. Except that in the meantime, Maserati seems to have slightly changed its direction. It will be working with other partners outside of Stellantis for the next generation of its vehicles, which means that even for the D segment, Alfa Romeo finds itself without a real partner. Since this future Alfa D segment vehicle was supposed to be based on the future Maserati, Alfa will likely need to start from scratch for this model, so it's still under review. It's possible, but we can't say if it will happen yet. It's likely that Alfa Romeo will remain for a long time with a lineup limited to only 2 or 3 models, either compact or SUV, without a new generation of Giulia or Stelvio, and without a future high-end model that may never be developed in partnership with Maserati. Unfortunately, today's bad news doesn't only affect Alfa Romeo, there's bad news from Volkswagen too. Well, good or bad, let me know your thoughts in the comments. The group's latest decision is still quite strange. It feels like the world is upside down. While the group is about to lay off around 100,000 people and potentially close up to 4 factories in Germany, the group had an idea: to reverse what has been done so far. Previously, Volkswagen manufactured some models in China and sold them in Europe, enabling them to offer affordable cars and earn good profits there. Except now they want to do exactly the opposite. To save the German factories and prevent their closure, Volkswagen is considering producing at some of its German sites threatened with closure fully electric models that are developed and sold exclusively on the Chinese market. A project that would be strongly supported by the unions, since it would allow production lines to stay open, or at least not close too many, and maybe help save the situation a little, so that they might end up with only, in big quotation marks, 80,000 layoffs instead of 90 or 100,000. The first model considered for this strategy is the Volkswagen ID Unix 07, a vehicle that we don't know at all in Europe, since it's simply not sold here. It's a kind of large electric crossover sedan, 4.9 meters long, which was developed in partnership with the Chinese brand Xpeng. It is built on the CEA platform, which is a proprietary platform from Xpeng. The second confirmed model would be the ID Unix 08 SUV, also a 4.9-meter-long SUV, which is presented as the spiritual successor to the Touareg for the Chinese market, and a third model that could follow, the ID Unix 09, which is a large sedan measuring 5.1 meters long. It is not yet available in China, but it will arrive in October, and it is offered with rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, with a Chinese LFP battery supplied by CATL. If fully approved, this project would be a turning point, as Volkswagen has developed cars in Germany for decades before exporting them to China. This time, it would be exactly the opposite. Cars designed in China, sold in China, and assembled in German factories. This could be just the start, as there's talk that Xpeng may soon build its G6 and G9 SUVs in European factories, instead of the current Austrian ones. There is talk that their production could be moved, brought back to the same German factories that make the 07, 08, and 09. So it's a project that hasn't been approved yet, but one thing is already striking. A few years ago, Europe taught China to build cars. Now, Volkswagen may fill German factories with models developed in China. If this plan succeeds, it will be a leading symbol of the global automotive industry's shift. By the way, speaking of shifts in the automotive world, we're going to talk about Renault, which is finally putting an end to its last real family car. At Renault, the station wagons have already disappeared. The minivans, too. The Scenic has become an electric SUV, and the Espace itself has abandoned its minivan shape to become a large SUV derived from the Austral. And yet this transformation no longer seems to be enough. Remember, a few weeks ago, Renault presented its new strategic plan called Future Ready. They introduced a new platform designed for electric cars called RGEV, a platform that would allow them to reduce production costs by 40%, an 800-volt platform. The idea is that in a few years, they can catch up to what German and Chinese brands have already been doing for several years. A platform that will come in several versions, capable of accommodating vehicles ranging from small city cars to large SUVs in the C segment. The problem is that the Renault Espace simply can't be based on this RGEV platform, because this platform is simply not compatible with 7-seat configurations. On top of that, the current Espace is nearing the end of its product cycle, and despite its transformation from a minivan to an SUV, it's not selling well at all. Since the beginning of 2026, only 2,100 units have been registered in France, which is less than half the sales of the Austral over the same period. So, between a weak market and technical constraints that make a new generation of Renault Espace very expensive, there's a good chance that the Renault Espace is simply nearing the end. It will be the end of a story that began more than 40 years ago, and above all, it will be the end of family cars at Renault. It's not just the loss of an iconic model, It's the brand that would be definitively turning the page on what has long defined its identity, namely, large cars designed above all for practicality and for families. We'll see how it turns out. In any case, that's it for today's news. I hope you found the video interesting. We're counting on you to show your support as usual by leaving a like, subscribing for future videos, and supporting us with the join button below this section. We'll be back tomorrow for the next video, which will be a regular one. See you tomorrow. Bye.